Hey everybody, welcome back. First of all, this is a microphone. So with that out of the way, let's talk about COPPA again, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act of 1998 that is going to be dramatically affecting the experience of being a YouTube viewer as of January 1, 2020, so just a few weeks away. It's also going to be dramatically changing the experience of being a YouTube creator or video publisher, video maker like myself on that same date, January 1, 2020. We've gotten a lot of clarification over the past month or so that the main debate has been going on and the main uncertainty has been going around about how this is going to affect things. And this week in particular, we got even more clarity that agrees with other clarity that we've gotten up to this point, agrees with the rule of COPPA itself. And we're in a much better place today, I think, with less misunderstanding. There's still way too much of it out there. But for folks who actually pay attention, there's less misunderstanding, less misinformation to be caught by. There's more clarity. A YouTuber named Creekcraft, he focuses on Roblox, was approached some time ago out of the blue by the FTC commissioner, the commissioner of the FTC itself, Federal Trade Commission, in charge of COPPA. He, this week, went to Washington, D.C., per invitation, and spoke directly to the commissioner of the FTC and other officers of the FTC about COPPA and YouTube, as a YouTuber himself who does content that was in definitely a gray area of questionability of its status. Should it be marked as for kids or not for kids? And he went there on his own time. Bless his Roblox playing, weird hat wearing soul, because he's really done a lot of good, very, very kind, nice thing. As far as I can see, he's acted very unselfishly, in good faith, just bringing information back to us as best he could. So he reported back. He has a couple of videos that he's done since he got back about this. He's done some posting on Twitter, answering some questions, forwarding information directly from the FTC to the best of his ability. And from what I can see, from my interpretation, he's done it fairly unedited. So he's not been emotional about it. I consider him to be a reliable source, though you still do have to be careful. There can still be misunderstandings, and I've already seen one. A lot of things have gotten cleared up, though. First of all, for my channel, clarity is maintained. I already had clarity. My stuff has been set. The majority of the stuff that I've done has been set as for kids for like a month now. So I'm in good shape, but I have more clarification now that I've done the right thing, and that content like mine, where it's videos are mostly like this, a kid's toy, up close, focusing on a kid's toy. Most of the videos are like that. Even though I am definitely not intentionally targeting children with my content, with the way that I speak, with the way that I present things. And I know that a very large percentage of my audience is over the age of 13. In spite of that, I still need to mark my content as for kids, because per COPPA law itself, which is what we are following, what we are supposed to follow as creators, as if we were content platforms ourselves, per the FTC versus YouTube settlement agreement. Folks like myself, in this exact case, where I do stuff that, according to this 10-factor test that they have in the COPPA law, that YouTube itself has repeated, FTC itself has repeated, talking about, you have bright colors, you have toys, do you have things that could potentially appeal to kids? The content itself, without context, would be considered under the ruling to be quote unquote directed to children. That's just the wording that they use. I don't like that wording. It's confusing. But my videos, per the ruling, would not be considered targeted towards children, because I'm not doing that. Hey kids, look at this awesome, little boat and stuff like that. I'm not doing that. It's very clear that I'm not doing that. That is covered. This situation that I'm in is directly and clearly, in plain English even, covered in the law. So go check it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't listen to anybody else. Go look at the law. itself. It's right there. That's covered, and I should not have to mark my content per what a lot of people have referred to colloquially and confusingly and misleadingly as the general audience exception. That's at the base of 16.1 CFR 312.2 under definitions near the end of the page. I've read it too many times now. It's right there. It's in plain English. I should not have to mark my content as for kids. I should not be subject to all of the strict regulations of COPPA. If only one additional thing happened. If before anybody saw my content, they were asked, "How old are you?" That's it. So, for example, folks who log in, who already have accounts on YouTube, where you have to say at least that you are over the age, that you are 13 or older. All those folks are already pre-screened, and they should be able to watch my content just fine with no restrictions, personalized, targeted ads, comments, everything, no problem. Anybody who has said that they are not 13 or over, anyone who said that they're under 13 should still be able to see my content, just without all the targeted ads and the data collection and all that kind of stuff. However, the problem is that YouTube doesn't have that question for folks who are logged out. They automatically collect the tracking data and the information, as much creepy data as they possibly can, as soon as you hit the page, even if you're logged out. Therefore, the mythical general audience exception does not exist for YouTubers. Period. Paragraph. End of story. It is fact. It is not debatable. It has not been debatable since the beginning. It's not been debatable since 2013 when the last rule update occurred. But let me move past that. So that's situations like mine. There are, however, a lot of situations, a lot of folks in cases and situations similar to mine who have now been cleared, actually cleared. And this is the best news by far of what we've been able to learn if we look for reliable information from good sources over the past month. It's the best information for a lot of people who are in the gray area. They're actually clear now. If they can tell, they can decide for themselves that they don't match I'm going to put it over here in my invisible, imaginary bulleted list, or the 10-factor list in the COPPA ruling itself that YouTube has referred to, that FTC has referred to. The one with the bright colors, has kids in it. What are the factors? Kid like music, kid like language, all that kind of stuff. Games, animations, all that kind of stuff. For folks who make content that doesn't have to check most of those boxes, or checks some of those boxes in very, very small ways, and they're clearly not targeting children, and they have no awareness that their content is mostly being or largely being consumed by kids, they don't have to mark their stuff as for kids. So what I'm talking about are like craft channels. A lot of craft channels are really worried about this because most of their content can be viewed by kids, can be enjoyed by kids. And certainly there are some kids that will watch that. And the FTC has made it very clear, just because some kids watch your content doesn't mean you have to mark it as for kids. And that is great that they've come out and said that explicitly. It's been in the rule, but there have been a lot of questions about things that feel like they contradict that. And for a lot of folks, they don't have to worry anymore. They don't have to mark. They really should not have had to worry, but definitely now they don't need to worry. They don't need to mark their content as for kids. They can continue to have comments, which is the most important thing by far. They can continue to have notifications go out to their subscribers when they put new content out. There are exceptions within that, of course. There are gray areas, and this is why the rules are as nebulous as they are and require so much interpretation, because there are just so many different situations. No rule is going to be able to account for all of them. It would have been great if it could account for more of them, though. But there will be craft channels, for example, that are more like, hey kids, let's talk about how to select a color from this pack of felt, And clearly that stuff is targeted towards kids. It's directed towards kids per this list over here of the 10 factors and more. And it's actually being targeted at kids. It's intentionally going towards kids. Stuff like that, it's pretty clear it needs to be marked as for kids. But not everything that happens to hit one of those or a couple of those things needs to be marked as for kids. Animators. Animators. Great news for animators who do stuff that, from that 20-foot view that I talked about in my first video that I worried about with how things were actually going to be looked at and how compliance was going to be enforced. From 20 feet away, if their content looks like it's for kids, it's simple cartoons and stuff. But if you actually watch the content, it's about, mature themes and has cursing. It doesn't have to have cursing. That's not a qualifier. But in general, the whole thing is clearly not targeted towards kids. Just because the thumbnail looks like it might be a kid's cartoon doesn't mean you have to worry. If you know that the stuff that you do is not for kids, if you know this, even if it happens to have bright colors in it, which is on that list, even if it happens to have animation or something that looks kid-like, doesn't automatically mean you have to mark your stuff as for kids. So I believe that a lot of folks who have been worried up to this point, who do crafts, who do animations, and some who do games as well, no longer need to worry and can just move on with their YouTubing lives. On the gaming end, as a great example, Call of Duty. Call of Duty gameplay, in at least 90% of cases, will not need to be marked as for kids, if not 100% of cases. I'll never say 100%, at least 99% of cases. It's a mature game. Yes, there are going to be some kids who do watch the content, and the FTC has made it clear that is okay. It still may be content that is not directed towards children, and even if it hits on some of those points, like, hey, it's animated, technically, it's computer generated, it's a game, that's on there as well, but it's Call of Duty. It's full of blood and gore and shooting people, and it's PEGI rated M, right? And the way that the content is presented, that game players do when they're talking, they're not talking to small children. They're not trying to gather together children. They're not targeting children. The content itself is not about children. There are too many things there that just add up to a clear picture that this is not for kids. It's not directed to kids. It's not targeted at kids. Don't worry about it. You're good. There are still a lot of questions about fringe cases. Well, not fringe cases, but just more questionable cases of things like Minecraft and Fortnite. A lot of big Minecraft and Fortnite channels know for a fact, they have knowledge that a lot of their viewers are kids, folks under the age of 13. And if you know that a lot of your audience is under the age of 13, it's just like YouTube knowing that a lot of their audience is under the age of 13 and that they're collecting data on them anyway. If you know this, then you can't set your stuff as not for kids, especially if it's something like Minecraft or Fortnite, where it's, content itself that without context looks like it can be directed towards kids per the 10-factor test. If it looks like it can be, and you know that a lot of your audience is kids, a significant portion of your targeted audience is kids, then you can't lie. That, to mark that as not for kids, per the ruling, per the way this works, would be lying. Now, you can choose to do that regardless. You can choose to lie, or you can choose to take a risk if you're not sure. On that topic, that's another thing where we've gotten more clarification over the past month, including more clarification this week through Creekcraft about who the FTC is going to be targeting. Who are they actually going to go after for their big fines that they want to levy, that they want to get this money, right? They got to get that scratch from creators. They're saying these days, and this was already covered in the last FTC update and in my last video even, that they're saying they're going to be going for the low-hanging fruit. They're going to be going for the big juicy targets. They're going to be going for the obvious, made for, directed towards, predominantly watched by kids content. The obvious ones where you go there, you look at it, as soon as you turn on, like 5 seconds, once you get past the ads, 5 seconds, it's for kids. That's what they're going to be going after. They're going to be looking for channels with that sort of content that's obvious, that have tried to mark their stuff as not for kids. That's what they're saying these days. How true is that? I don't know, because it's exactly the opposite of what FTC guy said in the press conference in September. When we talk about aggressiveness, we have the tools to go after 23 million creators in an expeditious fashion. That guy, right? He was making it he was very clearly threatening to cast a very wide net and catch a lot of us creators in it, right? That's the clear picture that he was very intentionally trying to put out there. And since then, the FTC has officially kind of reeled that back. So we have conflicting information from them. I don't know which one we should actually trust. I personally believe that we should each do what we're supposed to and do our research and evaluate our own content and mark our content honestly based on the factors that have been set forth and based on the clarifications that have put out there thus far. But at the very least, I do feel that folks who are really, really tiny, who maybe they'll have that one video that was put up a few years ago that may be marked incorrectly, or maybe it's on an account that you don't even have control of anymore, and it's getting, 3 views a month. I think those folks don't have to worry. I think that a lot of folks don't have to worry at all. And definitely some folks will take that to an extreme. There are folks who like to feel tough being naughty, doing stuff that they're not supposed to do. We're going to say that, I'm not one of the big ones. I'm not super obvious. So, I'm going to take my toy videos that are watched by kids and teens and adults, and I'm going to mark them as not for kids. Take that, FTC. Catch me if you can. And realistically, some of them aren't going to be caught. Why? Because life isn't fair. Meanwhile, there is a good possibility that some folks who are on the edge, who are acting in good faith, will be targeted for this stuff. Just like there are, to make an extreme example, there are folks who in the world literally get away with murder forever, for their entire life. And then on the opposite side, there are folks who get the book thrown at them and ultimately end up getting taken to jail for simple traffic violations. There have been people who have been beat up by police for jaywalking. Life is not fair. Extreme cases. Nobody's going to be beat up by police over setting a flag incorrectly for kids or not for kids for videos. But there's a wide range there. Probably most people aren't going to be even looked at by the FTC, is what it kind of looks like right now, but we can't be certain of that. We don't know what they're actually going to do, if they're actually going to be working in cahoots with YouTube or using some of YouTube's algorithmic data to cast that wider net. After all, but based on everything that we've heard from the FTC up to this point, recently, in the past month or so, they're going to be going specifically after the biggest, juiciest targets, which totally makes sense. They're not a huge agency. They don't have a huge budget, which is what a lot of people are saying, even though they just got $100 million from YouTube. So they now have a bigger budget than they've ever had, free cash available to them. We don't know for certain, but probably a lot of people don't need to worry as much as they've worried up to this point, especially if they've not done anything wrong, if they've acted in good faith. If you've acted in good faith, maybe you've made, a mistake or two here or there. If you've got some really old content that you're not able to even get to anymore. I think most folks in most normal situations of innocence don't need to worry. It's mostly the folks who are larger, who are more likely to get caught doing wrong, violating. And we'll see where things go from that. And then finally, one last clarification on violations, the $42,530 fine per violation. That's in the rules. It's a weird number because it's updated to adjust for inflation from year to year. It was originally $11,000 flat. Now it's a funny number because it's adjusted for inflation. Anyway, that's the maximum fine per video. So if you had 1,000 videos, it's $42,530,000 is potential maximum fine. It's listed in the rule itself, and I quoted that before. And a lot of people have latched on to that number as if that's the most important thing. The number itself is the most important thing. I've never felt that was the most important thing. I've always felt that the scariest thing is the idea of getting your entire channel taken away from you. But certainly if you are flagrantly going against the law, then the fines can be a major life-changing thing. But the FTC has continually and repeatedly clarified, and I already covered this in my last video on this subject, where they put out their blog post. They've clarified that they're most likely not going to go for the maximum fine. Maybe even in any case, they're going to go through due process. They're going to consider, as a government agency, they have to do this. They're going to consider on a case-by-case basis whether a person can even pay, be reasonably expected to pay off the fine. So they just put out a fine that's completely ridiculous. I don't believe it's considered to be a criminal thing at this point. So they're really limited in what they can do, and they have to act with some sense. They have to act with some reasonability, and the fine has to match, the punishment has to match the crime to some extent, the violation to some extent. So the FTC previously, as I covered in my last video, put out this funny example about one case where they only collected $35,000. $35,000. That's less than $42,530, and that was $35,000 in total for the whole entire case. So for all you super rich or super privileged YouTubers out there who just have money laying all around, you've got just stacks and stacks of $35,000 over here, $35,000 over there. If you get hit, hey, take one of those stacks, throw it at the FTC, you're good. Done. No problem. But on a more serious note, don't worry. I don't think most of us, even the larger ones of us, need to worry about $42,530 times the number of videos that we've done. Most of us don't need to worry about that number. However, realistically, most people, a very small number of people who are rich, who have lots and lots of YouTube money and haven't lived very much, don't understand this concept. But for most people in the world, getting a fine, even if it's $3,500, $3,500, not $35,000, $3,500, it's a big deal. For most normal people in the world, a car breaking down and needing to go into the shop and coming back with a bill for $1,500 is a major event. Really throws off our finances for an extended period of time, because there are other bills to pay. People have families and mortgages and other stuff and aren't independently wealthy. Most people are not independently wealthy, don't have just money to throw at things. So fines are real. They are something you need to worry about. In my opinion, they're something that you need to worry about and you need to consider in the matrix of considerations regarding compliance with the rules. You can be fined. You probably won't be fined $42,530, even if the FTC does pick you to make an example of, and even if you are clearly in violation. But you will probably be fined regardless, and it will probably sting. Just something to think about. Another thing that they have clarified, though. Last thing that I want to cover is something that has nothing to do with YouTube. Something that has nothing to do with the FTC at all. And it's something that Creekcraft has additionally clarified and brought more visibility to with a separate video that he's done, and also some additional stuff that he's talked about that aligns 100% with some stuff that I've been saying for a while now, and aligns 100% with what YouTube itself has been saying for folks who've actually listened to the words that YouTube has put out there through official channels. And that is, regardless of what the FTC does, YouTube is still going to be acting on its own as judge, jury, and executioner. YouTube has more power than the FTC. YouTube, on this, for compliance, YouTube can mess up more of us more easily, more quickly than the FTC can, by far. You know why? YouTube doesn't have to go through due process. YouTube has stated clearly in no uncertain terms that if they find us to be in violation of these rules based on their own determinations, forget about what the FTC says. We're increasingly clear on the FTC, and the FTC is seeming less unreasonable than ever based on all the clarifications that we've gotten over the past month or so. But YouTube, no. YouTube is still YouTube. YouTube is still using its algorithm to determine what is made for kids. And YouTube has been very clear about this. Go back and listen to their video, read the content that they put out there about this. They will delete your channel if you mark your stuff, according to them, incorrectly as not for kids when they believe it's actually for kids. Their algorithm has already gone through all of our videos once. This happened over a month ago. And they marked some stuff as for kids, some stuff as not for kids. A lot of it didn't make sense in what they chose because it's an algorithm. And it's a YouTube algorithm at that. We all know how bad YouTube's algorithms have been through the years. They've been consistently bad. Very bad. Always. They're same systems from the same groups of engineers working again this time towards this particular issue. They've gone through and they said, what's for kids, what's not for kids. And thankfully, we've had the option up to this point, and we will continue to have the option, as of everything we know now, past January 1, to override what the terrible YouTube bots have said once. So if the YouTube bot marks content as for kids, like, hey, we have detected certain polygons of certain colors and read certain things in the automated, algorithmically generated the closed captions, the subtitles, and we've detected patterns in the thumbnail and this and that, and in usage patterns and such that make it seem like this is probably for kids. And you look at that and you're like, I don't want to lose my ads on that. That's my top video on my channel. I don't want to lose my comments on that. I'm getting lots of great feedback on that. And you you said it as not for kids, even though if you looked at this list, the 10-factor list over there, you look back and forth, actually, per the rule, it should be directed at kids. But you say it's not, or it should be marked as for kids. If you say it's not, YouTube goes through another round, their bots go through another round, and they say, no, that is directed at kids, period. You can't change it after that. That's the end of it. You get one chance. If they override you, then there's no changing it after that, per what they have said. That is explicitly what they have clearly indicated to us. They said if you have any problems with the override that they do, then you can hit a send feedback link and type in a really, really long explanation about why your video should not be marked as for kids, and it will go to /dev/no. In other words, it will go into a black hole. It'll go into a huge email box that will never be read, just realistically speaking. It's a send feedback link, a general send feedback link. It's not going to do anything. They're not going to check into your individual case about your one video. So we still absolutely need to worry about YouTube, just as we always do. We're operating at their discretion. We are at their mercy. There's nothing new about that. There's nothing to really truly freak out about regarding that. We know that already. There's been all the demonetizations, all the other ad-related things, and censorship issues, and folks getting copyright strikes as you shouldn't, impersonation. We've had all kinds of YouTube issues. We know that we're not in control with YouTube, and there's just stuff that you have to deal with. And this whole COPPA thing is another thing that we now need to deal with. So if you think, based on all the stuff that the FTC has said, this is the only thing to worry about. If you think that based on all the stuff that the FTC has said and clarified up to this point, that you're okay with the FTC, that you probably can get past the FTC, you can get by the FTC and their compliance actions, but you're still planning on marking your content as for kids when it really shouldn't be, you're still at risk. Or even if you're just in the gray area, you're still at risk of being targeted by YouTube itself and potentially having your videos marked as for kids. That's the best case scenario. They just mark it as for kids and you can't do anything about it. It's not the end of the world, right? They could delete your videos. That would suck. Or they could delete your entire channel if you've done it too many times. If they detect a pattern of what they consider to be abuse. In other words, where they've set a bunch of things as for kids. You've said a bunch of those same things as not for kids. And they've come back and said, no, that is for kids. If you do that a lot, then they can just ixnay your channel completely for good. Precraft has agreed with that. I've seen plenty of people who have recognized these facts. It's just more things to consider. But overall, I feel like for a lot of people, the situation should be a lot better now in terms of understanding. So long as you look for reliable sources of information, you don't trust any one particular source of information, you don't trust just me, absolutely do not listen to what I say and take that as the word. Go look at other sources. Don't even look at any single lawyer video. I personally, as a non-lawyer, as just a person with brain who has been reading through the rules and looking into this stuff from a factual perspective, I've seen and heard stuff that has been said by a lawyer that is factually wrong about this exact topic here. And guess what? There are multiple lawyers on YouTube, actual real lawyers with real practices currently on YouTube talking about this situation, this COPPA situation, and they're going against each other. They are contradicting each other. They're even directly referring to each other, saying, I respectfully disagree with, I, lawyer A, respectfully disagree with lawyer B. And then there's lawyer C, who respectfully disagrees with other points made by lawyer B. So even amongst the lawyers, there are disagreements on this. So there is definitely still confusion out there. There's definitely still a lot of interpretation to be done, but I just feel like there's a lot more clarity today. As long as you're not looking for emotional comments and content and emotional responses to stuff, as long as you're not just looking at individual tiny little tidbits of information, you're trying to form an entire picture based on reliable information from good sources that you can trust, like the FTC itself. I paused there because can we really trust them? At least we can trust that what they say is what they say. More so than with YouTube, right? But you can trust what the FTC says a lot more than you can trust what I say, just as an example. That's where I'm going with that. You can trust the FTC more than some random person like myself making some random tweet somewhere or saying that if I DM'd you on Instagram in a group conversation and said that I heard that some lawyer somewhere on YouTube at one point said the following, therefore YouTube is saved, or I heard that some YouTuber said the following, therefore we're all doomed, cancel YouTube. Just don't fall for those dumb social media traps that oftentimes aren't even intentional. Most of the times aren't even intentional. Just be smart as much as possible. Get as much real information as you can. And good luck to all of you. I hope that the situation today is better. We will have even more clarity come January 1, but that's not the end of it. Things will continue to play out on this for the coming year. And then there are a few more years before the COPPA ruling itself gets updated. That's the last thing that I'll cover. The FTC public comment period ended. Lots of people went in commenting about the YouTube thing in particular. Most of that is not relevant because the public comment period was the every 10-year update process for COPPA rule itself. It last happened starting in 2010. It took until 2013 for the rule to be updated. So we've just started another one of those cycles right now. Expect if we're lucky, 2021, I'd say would be the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, probably late 2022, when the ruling will actually be updated again, which will change things for us. But in the meantime, the ruling that we're dealing with right now with the settlement agreement for YouTube is set in stone. Nothing is changing on that. No feedback that we give to the FTC is changing that from now into the foreseeable future. No feedback that we put into any change.org petitions is changing that. What we have to deal with is what we have to deal with. And I hope that it's clearer today. And I hope that I've given you information that is valuable. And I hope that you won't just listen to me, that you'll go find out good, reliable information for yourself to help you if you need it or you want it. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.